Wednesday. We are having a couple of momentary technical difficulties. I've actually invited my husband to participate. He's trying to open the guest invitation on his phone. It's not cooperating with him. Do you want me to email it to you? Do you want to move the dog and come sit by me? Oh, wow.
I'm being funny.
They might not have heard that you were being funny. Anyway, my name is Robin Bull. I am a professional, top-rated, according to Upwork, top-rated plus freelance writer and editor. He might have gotten it to work because he's walking away. And the reason why he would be going to the other room is to help prevent feedback matters. My husband does work with me from time to time on projects. So tonight what we're going to be talking about, and my husband does enjoy piping in with his witty commentary, and he's been with me this whole time that I've been in business. I'm going to be talking about a lot of different things related to Upwork, but just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. You can follow me on Twitter at the Robin Bull. Same link for Instagram at the Robin Bull. You can, of course, like the Facebook page, facebook.com/the Robin Bull. If you are watching from Facebook and you have a question that you want to put in, and I guess that he can't really get it to connect, you might just be hearing him from the couch tonight. We really need to get you a webcam to you for your computer. You can connect your Facebook chat to Restream. Just go to chat.restream.io/FB. That way, if I don't already have your question, you can submit it that way. We do have a lot of material for tonight. I will try to get to any extra questions tonight. But if I don't, I will get to them. I promise. I do go back to the comments here on the main Facebook page, in the Facebook group, which I will get to in a minute, and on YouTube, which we have the YouTube stream up and running. I do go back and look at those to take on any additional questions and use them later. If you are a freelance writer, you can join the free Writers Work From Home Success Group. The link is up on the screen. It is facebook.com/groups/writers WFH Success. I also have a blog. If I hit hide, you can just see it right here on the screen. Confessionsfromthecouch.com. The motto is making work from home work for you. Oh, look, it's my spouse. There he is.
There's so much crap.
We can't really hear you very well, though.
It's because I'm whispering.
Ah, okay. So, yeah, here we are, and there is a little bit of a delay as far as volume goes. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And the first thing that we are going to talk about this evening has to do with making an appealing Upwork profile for clients. And a lot of that actually has to do with SEO. When you are on Upwork, one of the first things that people do not realize is, for example, if you are, let's just say, a copywriter like I am, when you go to Upwork and just go to the top and type the word copywriter, and what you will find out is that there are tons and tons of copywriters to choose from. So if you're just using a singular word, copywriter or freelance copywriter or freelance writer, graphic designer, doesn't really matter what you are. If you're just using a base word to describe yourself, you're really just setting up more competition for yourself. And so it is super important that you're doing something to make sure that you're standing out. And so one thing that I learned pretty early on is to use a basic SEO principle for my title. And that's the very first time that I started using the word expert and legal, specifically expert, legal writer, comma, business writer, comma, academic writer. And the reason why I did that isn't because I necessarily see myself as an expert, at least not when I initially started using the word expert in my title. It's because I put myself into the shoes of my ideal client, the clients that I most wanted to work with. And so I thought, if they're using Upwork, what are the words that I think they would use to try to find me? And that would be, they would want someone who is an expert legal writer, for example, because a lot of lawyers, law firms, even agencies who market their services to, excuse me, those industries, legal industries, they want someone who at least knows a little bit about what they need. And so they look at paralegals and they look at legal assistants or someone who's at least worked in that industry. And I have that experience. And so that's why I put the word expert in there, because that's probably what they're looking for. Same with business writer. I enjoy writing about business. And not very long ago, that my husband can tell you, because he's here with me tonight, is I actually landed a $100 an hour client. And that's one of the ways that I did that. My dog seemed very nervous whenever I admitted that. Crom got really upset just now. He's like, huh?
They're going to Rose.
But yeah, I landed that. And the way that you get found is by using those terms. And it's the same for academic writer. And the other thing to keep in mind, that's actually how Penn Foster found me, was because I had academic writer in my profile. And that's something else to keep in mind now about Upwork. It's not something that I use very much, but Upwork allows you to have more than one view of your profile. You can have a general profile, and that's actually all I tend to use. You can have the, for example, I have, I think they split mine up for me when they first started doing that, but you can also have mine I think is also split into a writing and an editing one. But the thing I don't like about that is then it makes some of my jobs disappear. So you can only see the writing or the editing ones. You don't see all of my experience. And so it's like, oh, wow. It still shows how much I've made and everything, but it doesn't show you all of my abilities. So I don't particularly like it. And so that's really kind of step one with your profile, is to make sure at the top that you're very specific and naming your profile how you think your ideal clients would look for you. So, and then the other thing is down in the body. I've talked with other six-figure freelancers, and it doesn't really matter if you have a longer profile or a shorter one. We kind of just agreed to disagree there. I have a rather long body for mine, but some of my six-figure freelance friends, they have shorter ones, and we have found it doesn't really make a difference. And one of my, I call her my apprentice. She's relatively new. She just started less than a month ago, I think. Hers is really short, and she's done fine, totally fine. So that part doesn't matter so much, as long as you're getting your message out there and you're talking to them very well. And they don't, I'm trying to think how I really want to say this. Even in a short profile, you just want to make sure that your message is really getting across to them, and that they know that you're truly trying to think how I want to say it. For me, it's easier to do it in a longer profile, because I use a lot of you language instead of a lot of I language. In a cover letter and a resume, there's a lot of I's, because you're really just pointing out what you're able to do. If you send out a traditional cover letter, it's I. A profile on Upwork is different, because they are on there specifically to find someone to fill their need. So take what you're doing and switch it from I to you. You have this problem. You want to throw the pain point out there and almost poke them a little bit, but also kind of point out what you can do. So there are going to be a few I sentences in there, but you turn it a little more to where it's pointed towards them and how you solve the problem. And make sure it's SEO ready to go, because it really does help. And the one thing that I've also done, pull it up here in a caption, I signed up for Bitly. Bitly is 100% free to use. And As you guys see down here, I took my long link. You have an option with Upwork, first of all. If you go under your account settings, you can pay them $14.99 a month if you want to and have an Upwork Plus account. And you do get all kinds of benefits and features. You get 80 connects a month. You can see extra information about who's bidding, how much they're bidding, which is some decent information, I guess. How long was it ago? Honey, I was an Upwork Plus member, but hadn't it been a couple of years?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a long time.
Since I started doing it, you were in the beta program for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while. It's a good write-off if you're really interested. It's a good write-off for business. But the other thing that it does is it lets you customize your Upwork link. The alternative, if you're not interested in paying for that, go to bit.ly, just Google it, and then take your very long Upwork link, stick it in there. It's going to give you a bit.ly, and then you can customize the end of the link. And as you see on your screen, I just changed mine to read Hire Robin. And so now when people click on that, I use it on Twitter, Upwork, Instagram. It's in my link tree. I use it all over the place. And when people click on it, it just takes them straight to my Upwork profile. So that's a free way to kind of do what you could do if you were paying Upwork to do it. And I don't have any issue with the Upwork Plus program at all. It's just that if you're at a position that you can't afford to do it, there's an alternative for you. So just a quick recap of the Upwork profile. Make sure that you're doing something for your title at the very top that makes you stand out. But think about it in terms of if you were your ideal client, how would they look for you? How would they be looking you up on Upwork? That's the title you want to use. And I understand if you're brand new and you're not comfortable using the word expert or something yet, that's cool. I understand you don't have to use it yet. Use something else. That's totally fine. Okay. I don't want you feeling uncomfortable. I was talking to a new freelancer the other day because Upwork has a new program. It's a little bit like LinkedIn, but not quite. And I've connected with a couple of people, and he's a graphic designer. And so I asked him, I said, what do you find yourself doing the most? And so he told me, and I said, well, do you like doing it? He said, oh yeah, I love it. Well, why not, put that in there, not just graphic designer, but why not? I think it was social media graphics or YouTube. I don't remember, but I was like, why not put that in there? Try that. So, just little things, because you can change that title. You don't have to leave it the same. So change your title. When you're working on the body, make sure you change it up, and you can use the catalog at the bottom. And you can create different little projects that you can get done. Put that together too. And if the consultation offer is there for you to use and you have skills where you can do consultations with clients, think about it, set it up, use every tool that they give you to get started. I actually need to set up the consultation one on my end. I keep saying I'm going to do it, but I haven't done it yet. So the other thing, I had some tips I was going to give you guys too. I was talking to a new freelancer the other day, and she was kind of in the same boat that I was in. And there's a saying that when you start out, you don't have any other option but to succeed. Just burn the ships and do it. I was there. If that's the situation you're in, you've lost your job or something is going on in your life, and like this has to be your only answer, because that's what it was like kind of for me when I got started. I mean, I did have 2 part-time jobs when I started, but I knew I had to make this work. Burn the ships and do what you got to do to make it work. You have to be strategic about it, but you can definitely do it. So I would say on Upwork, number 1, at the bottom of the page of your profile, there's a spot for testimonials. Contact someone that you've worked with. Get a testimonial. They really do help. And I already told you, think about your title, so I already covered that. My third tip that I wrote down is make sure you go under your account settings, spend the money to buy the connects. They don't cost very much. Make sure you do it. You can write them off if that's your concern. And I see this a lot, people talking about Upwork. They get upset because Upwork charges for connects. Number one, it's not that much. Number two, again, if that's a concern for you, you can write it off. All businesses have expenses. Mine, Upworks, McDonald's down the street, all of this. Number three, if you're not willing to invest in your business, why should anyone else be willing to invest and do business with you? I understand if you're in a really tight spot and it's hard for you to do that. So I fully understand that aspect, but Upwork has expenses too, as far as the people just complaining to complain. Number four, find one or two easy things off of Upwork to do and get the feedback. Having that positive feedback on your account makes it a lot easier for people to take chances on you. Number five, if someone contacts you for a job on Upwork and says, oh, hey, I want to pay you off Upwork, the answer is no, don't do that. Number six, don't be afraid of hearing the word no. Number seven, make sure you learn how to use the search on Upwork. Number eight, know that the more you move around on the platform and apply for things, but please only apply for things that you know how to do, the more the algorithm will start to send you things as time goes on. Number nine, I already covered, but you got to say it again and again. Use SEO in your title and the body of your profile. Number 10, talk to your audience, not at them. Like I said earlier, make sure you're using that you language in your profile. And then if you're not sure what I mean by that, make sure you head over to my profile, which is bit.ly/hirerobin. So from that one, I was going to tell you guys a little bit about what I learned from doing like critique after critique after critique. Because several years ago, my husband can tell you, after I was featured by Upwork, which was like, I think 4 years ago today, actually, I was contacted by a lot of different freelancers, and they were sending me friend requests and messages and emails, and they were asking me to look at the profile, and I was like, oh, okay. So I looked at them and I gave feedback, and then I would go back to look to see if they made changes. So out of 5 that I did in one day, 1 made the changes. Everyone else thought they didn't need to do it, but yet they still wanted people to just give them the money. So if you're not taking your profile seriously and trying to implement changes that are going to attract clients, that's really going to end up being on you. And I've noticed that's a little bit of a disturbing trend, and it's a really bad attitude to take. And if you want people to pay you, you have to establish yourself as an expert, and you have to build trust, because people aren't just going to throw money at you if they think that your profile is poorly put together or if it's poorly worded, because they're not going to trust you. They're just not. So it's your job to put together a profile that fits the needs and the desires of your potential client. And a lot of people I've learned thinks there's some sort of magic shortcut. Out of everyone that I talked to during that week, none of them were here in the US, but so most of our chatting was done through email and messenger, and everyone thought the minute these changes were done, immediately they should get results. And the thing about SEO, whether it's on one platform or not, they think it's immediate, and it's not. SEO impacts not just the results on Upwork, it's going to impact things across the web. Because I know that if I log out of everything and I empty my entire history, clear everything, and I mean everything, okay? Or if I just go to if I can go to somebody else's house, somebody that I know doesn't Google me, I could probably go to my neighbors or somebody's, I don't know, Google my, look myself up. I will find my Upwork profile at some point, or I could, look up expert legal writer, and at some point I'm going to come up. And it's going to be my Upwork profile. So the changes you make are eventually going to come up in Google, but it's not going to be overnight. So if you're changing things, it's not going to be overnight, okay? And there was one specific comment that irritated me, and it's similar to a lot of the comments people would leave on Upwork when I was featured, and it basically boiled down to they didn't want to do all of this work. They wanted a shortcut. But that's not the way business is of any kind. And even if a shortcut existed, people with that mindset, they shouldn't use it, because anyone who would take a shortcut in something that small would take shortcuts on a client's project. They think they know more than their client. They will refuse to take direction from a client, and they're going to get angry when a client leaves them bad feedback and decides to go get help from a different freelancer. And I see that a lot as well. There is no shortcut when it comes to building a solid freelancing business. So if you're fortunate enough to have a big network of people who've seen your talent first in some way, that's wonderful, and it's probably going to help you out. And then there are people that think Upwork owes them something, and you'll see that a lot as well. And Upwork doesn't owe me or you anything. They're not perfect. No platform is, but they don't owe any of us anything. I've been on there since they were Odesk. I was also on Elance, and I was really happy when Odesk acquired Elance and just took it together. So I saw a lot of comments, back then, and I still see them now, and everyone goes about it with such a terrible attitude, and it's because they don't want to put in the work. And it's a lot of work to put together a good profile and to go back and continue to tweak it until it starts working. I have not changed. My husband can attest to this. I've not changed my profile in 7 out of 8 years, with the exception of adding a couple of images to the catalog at the bottom, using the testimonials that came out last year, I think. Maybe the year before. I don't know when those came out. Yeah, he said not that much. And
All right, I will have you know, I just had to figure out how to write that backwards. I'm not kidding. That whole message was written up, and $A is it much that not. That is exactly how I had to type it in order for it to come through that way. Whatever Restream does for these messages sucks. Sorry. Go ahead. Excuse me?
our dog went back there to go see him. So
that was actually supposed to be public, because you had a Facebook user say it takes money to earn money. That was actually directed for them. It's literally like
I
$1.
saw the it takes money to earn money. That one came up in
Yeah,
public,
but
and I just
mine,
put it on the screen.
yeah, but mine's not coming through that way, I guess. I don't know.
The other one came through as private.
Yeah, but it won't let me type in the regular message board.
That's weird.
On top of that, I have to type backwards. It's a good thing I'm a big fan of Yoda.
So
sorry, continue.
Upwork doesn't owe anybody anything. Doesn't owe us clients. It doesn't owe us anything at all. So the too long, not really listening of all of that is, you really just have to take the time to put together the entire profile, tweak it until it starts working well for you. Because currently 3 active clients for me on Upwork, and everybody else that I have right now is a non-Upwork client. I mean, I still have active contracts past that on Upwork, but only 3 are active for us. So the next one, we're going to talk about how to write. This one will excite a lot of people. we're going to talk about how to write an Upwork proposal that clients can't turn down. And this is actually one of my more popular ones. But beforehand, would you like to regale the public with something while I go get a drink? Because I'm a moron and didn't bother to bring anything with me.
Regale with Kid Cat.
Just keep people company for uno momento while I go get a drink. Tell everybody a story.
The cat will entertain them.
You have to talk loud. You're hard to hear.
The cat will entertain them. Entertain, cat. Dance.
Tell them about the mob.
There was a mob?
You know, when the mob tried to solicit me on Upwork.
That was just funny.
I've never told that story on there.
I just remember making the joke of how they made you an offer you can't refuse, and yet you still managed to try and refuse it. Surprisingly, our car did not get blown up.
But I've never told them about the mob.
I don't remember the whole story now. I just remember the mob. It was great.
But the mob found me on Upwork.
That's true. See,
We're talking about
all
Upwork
sorts of
clients.
Interesting clients. You really do. It's great. The mob, Saudi princes.
Yeah, the mob found me on Upwork, made me an offer, and I refused it politely.
You shouldn't have.
My knee's broken.
It was just to help them change their image. They just don't want to be known as knee breakers anymore.
Look at that. More comments. Cute kidders.
Kit and Cat. Steal the show.
There's Jamie.
Cat spazzing the fuck out.
Okay, so.
I have no neck.
Now that I've gotten something to drink, because, you know, I was dumb. Sorry I'm so dumb, everyone. We're going to talk about how to write an Upwork proposal clients can't turn down, as opposed to making Robin an offer she cannot refuse. Or something, I don't know. So this is actually one of the most common things I get asked. And if you want to read this, it's on confessionsfromthecouch.com. Just use the search feature and look up Upwork proposal. And if you want to listen to this besides this video, go to YouTube, my YouTube channel. There is a recording of this. And I don't remember, honey. I think you might have been on that one. I can't recall. It's from an old podcast that we did. So we are going to talk about first with this how to screen potential clients, because that's the first step I take. And it doesn't matter if I've been sent an invitation, and there have been a lot of scams on Upwork, at least for me lately. And I know that my apprentice has seen a couple too. I don't know if she wants me using her name, given she's going through some stuff. So I'm not going to. I know she's been going through some stuff lately. I'm going to move my screen over here because I can't see the chat otherwise. There we go. My notes. So that's the first thing I do is I want to screen my potential clients, and I'm going to tell you guys what I do. And I'm not necessarily making decisions based on the client being new to the platform itself. I do work with new clients sometimes, even if they don't have any feedback, but only if I have a conversation with them first. And sometimes I will go as far as scheduling something with them, because Upwork now has what's known as Nihilus, which is kind of like Calendly. The issue I've had with Nihilus is sometimes if we have to edit and reschedule, we have a hard time doing that. And that's actually why I set up a Calendly, but I made it private and I only give it to people if absolutely necessary. And so when I do that, let's see. I don't know what happened there. Try to fix some stuff real quick. Looks like this stream might have. There we go. Upwork also has Zoom that's automatically built in. And so when I go through and use Zoom, that also gives me a better idea, especially with people who are new to the platform, whether or not we're going to be a good fit. I don't do that every time. It depends on how the conversation goes. Sometimes it will just be a phone conversation because you can also just do that through Zoom, through Upwork as well. I did that with the last insurance company that I started working with. Let's see here. The other thing I look for is whether or not they have a verified payment method. That's really important because I want to make sure that I'm getting paid. I also look at the details of the job, and I'll explain more about that in a minute, whether or not there's a deadline listed, because I need to determine if I can meet their deadline. Deadlines are important. If there's not a deadline, I will use that as well when I'm going through my proposal. The client's overall feedback score, but that's not the only thing I'm looking at. The feedback left for the client and by the client. I'm looking to determine if the client is unresponsive or otherwise hard to work with. I'm not going to work with people that I think they're going to be a pain in the ass. It's easy for people to put their best face forward in messages. So I want to look at previous projects and how they behave. But I also want to see if they're leaving feedback for freelancers, because I have a 100 job satisfaction score and I'm top rated plus. Even though I have the ability to have negative feedback removed from my profile every so many months, I do not necessarily want to go through and have to have the hassle of having things removed every so often. So, and I want to know also, like I said, are they unresponsive? Are they hard to work with? I also want to look and see if there is a preferred location for the freelancers, because sometimes people are very anal about that. If I've had situations where the only reason I wasn't hired is because they really did just want someone on the East Coast. Well, okay, that's fine. I do look at the average rate the client pays. This isn't necessarily a deal breaker, but it can tell me whether they're likely to consider my proposal or if they're likely going to hire someone in an area where the cost of living is lower. If someone is paying $3 or $4 an hour, they're likely only looking to hire someone in India or Pakistan or Bangladesh versus me. Not always. I mean, sometimes they're going to go ahead and hire me for higher level projects, but not necessarily. There are other factors I would have to consider at that time. I also look at the number of applicants. If there's one opening and 75 plus applicants, I'm probably not going to waste my time or my connects. I will also look at the date the client last accessed the job. If it's been a week, 2 weeks, 30 days, I'm not going to bother. I also look at how many people were invited and how many are being interviewed. If 2 people were invited and 1 or 2 are interviewing, it's likely the job was just created for them and that's who they're wanting to hire. So I generally am not going to waste my time unless, the invitations were not answered. Again, it's one of those situations where I'm just kind of looking at it and trying to determine if I'm really interested. So let's talk about the details of the jobs. Before you write your proposal itself, it's imperative that you read and actually understand the details of the job. You'll refer to those when you write your proposal, so make sure you read it carefully and then read it again. And then read it once more. You need to make sure that it lines up with what you expect out of the project and make sure that it matches up with a budget that you expect. It's not always going to match up with whatever they put on Upwork. Some people just use that as a placeholder. They really do. I used to not think that was true, but over time, you learn that that's the truth. And other people, they really are that guy and expect 1,000 words for $2. Okay. So to to some degree. You just have to read, play it by ear, and for me, I look at all the factors in totality and decide whether or not I'm going to bid. The other thing you want to do is look for key phrases or words the client wants you to use in your proposal, and they usually want that at the top of the proposal. The last one that I saw like that, they wanted "I am a human" written at the top. Some will want a color. They'll tell you use word red, blue, green, or they will ask you to tell them what your favorite color is. So it's very important. Very important. Oh, my husband came back. There you are.
I don't know. I've given up. Just tried to type a message and then things happened.
Oh, technology is so fun. What is the do you remember a proposal? Like not a proposal, but what's
Will
like
you
one of
marry
the
me?
most insulting jobs that were sent to me for my consideration that you've ever gotten, that you remember me ever telling you about?
I like to write my homework ones. Those were fun.
Yeah, but he paid good. I mean, let's just be
No,
real.
the ones you rejected, the write my thesis, my
I get a lot of those.
30,000 word thesis for $50.
Yeah.
Those are always fun. By the way, I'm doing this thesis for, biochemistry. Do you think you can do it? No, fuck you.
I think I remember when I used to get the ones that were like a half a cent or even a fourth of a penny for freaking 500 words or 1,000 words, and man,
Yeah,
those used
those
to
are
piss
always
me off.
crap.
Oh, God, that used to piss me off so bad. So bad. Or they wouldn't want, like, even with the hourly ones where they thought, like, I wasn't going to charge them for time for the research.
Yeah. Wait,
No.
I gotta pay for you to look this up too.
So, anyway, while you're reading, when you're reading the job post, I want you to come up with at least one question to ask them. Even if you don't think you have any questions, come up with one anyway, okay? The question is an integral part of constructing a great proposal. Think about exactly how what you do and how you do it can help the client accomplish the end goal of what they're doing. How can your experience or knowledge directly benefit that client if they choose you? And it's okay to bring in a little bit of your personal experience to it as well. I've landed jobs doing that actually. So, but you got to be careful in how you do it. And no, you don't have to be like super formal. I've landed $100 an hour clients just by not being incredibly casual, but just being like hi, my name is Robin, just 3-4 sentences. So, but I'm brief and to the point. So now that you're ready to submit your proposal, let's talk about what makes the proposal so great. Oh, looks like we lost my husband again. I don't think his phone likes this thing very much. First, a great proposal is not copied and pasted. It's okay to have one or two basic proposal letters that you can pull from, especially when you're just starting out. I had them too. Let's see here. If they're not customized to the job, your client will know. They will know and they will ignore you most likely. If you've been invited to apply, your proposal will likely look differently than your standard proposal. So I want to talk about a proposal for an invitation first because they're usually shorter. So usually, like in this particular article that I wrote, I was invited to apply for a job for SEO refinement. The client mentioned the content they had was graded as a B minus, and they were using specific software. And they listed the sort of site it was. So in their invitation, they used their first and their last name. So my reply, I started with hello, first name, or hi, first name. I thank them for the invitation. I tell them I'm excited to learn more about their project, but I specify whatever kind of project that it is. If I have actual questions, I put them next. For this particular job, I asked if they used ClearScope because they had told me that their SEO had a grade, and that's really common with ClearScope. I asked them if they had a deadline. I mentioned that my husband and I will use a similar app as far as, what they were needing help with, because ClearScope. Generally, I go further, talk about previous experience, and then I always tell them I look forward to hearing back from them, or say something like, talk to you soon, and then I sign off. It's really simple. So, what happened to that job? They didn't hire anyone. They just closed it. Messaged me about a week later and said that they just decided to go do something else. It happens. So invitations are cool because they don't cost you any credits. And now the way it's set up is if you get the job, Upwork actually gives you connects. They used to be called credits, they're called connects now. If I bid on something, it's a proposal. So now I just write hello or hi. Sometimes I still write good morning, good afternoon. It depends on the tone of the job description. If it's a law firm and it has a formal feel, I'm going to go with a formal introduction, right? If it feels like it's less formal, I'm going to be less formal. I introduce myself. My name is Robin Bull. I'm top rated full-time. Sometimes I say full-time. I don't always say that now, but that's my example I have in this. Writer or editor, whatever the job is for. I'd love to know more about your project. I ask my question. How often do you need whatever sort of writing it is? Do you generally provide keywords or topics or outlines? A lot of my clients now provide outlines. On average, how many words per post? Now I tend to ask about turnaround time because that always gets a response. I explain why I'm asking questions, especially if I ask more than one or two. I ask a lot of questions because I want to make sure that you get exactly what you want. Appeal to the ego. I go into my education, but I don't go too far into it because I want to explain how what I've done appeals to them and fixes their problem. That's a really long paragraph, so I'm not going to read it to you guys. I close, tell them how I look forward to hearing from them, and I sign off. That one, I actually got the job, but I'll tell you what I didn't do, because I hear people do this a lot. I did not go out of my way to overwhelm the client with information. It might seem like I did, especially if you go to my blog and you read the big middle paragraph of my legal experience as a paralegal. But because I also did some name dropping as far as places that I'd written for, it served a purpose. The client could go there at that time and find my work. The particular legal magazine that I wrote for, the articles aren't up anymore, but I still have them. Sup, Chris? So I knew that my paralegal experience would make them happy since I know what actually happens in the law office. It's okay to go into your experience and your education and cherry pick. You don't have to overwhelm them with everything, just cherry pick. I did not beg or ask for the job. I just said, hey, happy for your consideration. Here's some information about me. Here are some basic questions. Happy to hear back from you. Desperation will not get you hired on Upwork, ever. I did not just copy and paste. So why is it so important to ask a question? The reason is engagement. It gives the clients a reason to reach back out to me because I can tell you with certainty if They respond to me. I almost always have them engaged. And oh, look, it's Jamie. Jamie works with me, and now she is joining me. And so most people won't ignore a genuine or well-posed question about the project. You can still get on too, honey. It takes 10 people.
No, I can't. I can't stay on. My phone's being a jerk back there.
So should you follow up? It's standard behavior to think. My husband just mooned me, y'all. What watching my husband? He mooned me.
They can't see me now.
I know.
Well, like,
I know. So you could follow up. I've considered it, but just like with a traditional job, the last thing you really want to do is make a nuisance of yourself. So if you're going to do it, be professional, be short. Hi, just thought I'd reach out and see where you are in your decision-making process. Is there anything else you need from me? That's it. Keep it simple. So what do you think if you don't have any experience? All of us have to start somewhere. Every single one of us. Oh, looky there. Got a little message for you there, Jamie. Her husband's flirting with her, so I put it up on the screen. So just so Chris knows, that's also going to go up on YouTube. It's streaming live now on YouTube as well. So yeah, just so everyone watching this knows, we are all, Jamie, myself, my husband, and Chris, a bunch of cut-ups. And before COVID took another nasty turn, we used to get together quite a bit. So it is what it is right now. So, but y'all got to start somewhere as far as getting work and getting it under your belt. And it can be hard to get the first job or two under you. So, and those jobs need to go really, really well so that you start getting that recurring work or you get great feedback. So when I started freelancing on Upwork, I was also teaching and I worked in a law firm. I wasn't previously published anywhere. I started a Hub Pages account, not to be confused with Jamie, what is that one place that you and I talked about getting certified through? Hub something. I write a lot of articles for clients and it goes through stuff. Hub something.
I don't remember.
I don't either. Whatever. Probably doesn't matter. Anyway, and it was real similar to Medium, but I only did it for the byline. And so if you don't have a medium.com account, I really recommend it. Write whatever you want, okay? I would keep it professional, keep it in your wheelhouse to start with. And I used it, like I said, just to sort of showcase what I could do. Just do some evergreen stuff. And as I started to land work, I would make note of where the blogs were posted and share those out as long as I wasn't under an NDA. If you're under a non-disclosure agreement, don't do that. I also shared a few samples of my own basic legal concepts writing, kept them out in Dropbox, made it a point to update the portfolio section on Upwork and LinkedIn. Didn't really update the Upwork portfolio much. Still haven't. And, I have tons of hours logged and a ton of feedback. So potential clients can get a feel for who I am and what I do. But before that, I made sure that I did what I could to make it super easy for them to find me. So one thing that I told a new freelancer to do was to look around on Upwork and find super duper easy stuff to get started on. One thing that she found, and it's legit, was to get reviews and likes for Facebook pages. And so that's one thing that she started doing. And that I think has gone pretty well for her so far anyway. My throat is killing me. So there's that one. And then Upwork client training. Did you know, it's one of Danny's favorite stories, Jamie, that on Upwork. He looks so excited.
Good.
She said that she's made over $100 doing the reviews so far.
Woohoo!
Yeah, get it, girl. This was several years ago. I think I'd been on Upwork maybe a year. I was solicited by the mob. It's one of Danny's favorite stories, that I got made an offer I shouldn't have refused, but I politely did, and he doesn't know how I kept my kneecaps. So, with that, Upwork client training.
Why we don't drive that green van anymore?
He said it's why we don't drive that green van anymore. So, yeah. So with that, Upwork client training 101. Now that we've talked about profiles and we've talked about proposals, and if anyone has any questions about what we've discussed so far, I will put the chat thing back up real quick. From Facebook, you can go to chat.restream.io/FB. Upwork client training. At some point, you will work with someone who is brand new to the platform, doesn't know how to use it. I had someone like that actually just, right around Christmas. Didn't know really how to use it. She had coworkers who knew how to use it because they were all from the same company, but she herself really didn't know much about it. They have little to no experience even working with freelancers. There are some new clients who are very open to learning. Mine was. She was really open to it. I even explained to her how to limit hours, how to do everything she needed to do. There are others, however, that have some very unrealistic expectations about working with a freelancer and even working on Upwork. And the good news is that as a freelancer on Upwork, there are some things you can do to help new clients learn the process while also not feeling as if you're responsible for babysitting them. One of the most common new client experiences I've had on Upwork during the last 8 years now is working with new clients who do not understand there's a difference between hiring a freelancer and hiring an employee. So as Jamie knows, because we work together, and I'm sure she's so happy.
I am.
Yay! Probably the nicest thing in the world about freelancing is you get to do what you need to do when you need to do it. Can't fire yourself.
That's right.
Get to chase your minions around. Get to pull your sweaters out of the toilet.
Yeah. Pajama pants.
That's a fun one. What's been your favorite thing so far?
Having the flexibility and the structure.
Well, honey, what's been your favorite thing so far about working from home? I'll ask you too. He looks like a deer in headlights.
The trap.
Not trap. Or, being told by my 2-year-old that I need to stop working for a moment because, look, feet. Definitely a worthy break.
I don't know that it was necessarily my favorite thing, but being sick last year for close to 11 months, I didn't get fired.
This is true.
Had that going for me. That was nice. Unlimited naps.
Yes.
So that was great. Unlimited naps. So that was always cool. So, but there's a big difference between being a freelancer and being an employee, even though some employers do have things now like unlimited vacation and, things like that. Some people don't know the difference between hiring people like us and employees. But as freelancers, it's on us to pay close attention to what they say and what they don't say in messengers or in emails or on the phone or however we end up communicating. As a freelancer, you may or may not choose to accept a position that requires you to work certain hours. I've had a couple of positions, like over 8 years, where even before I decided to kind of set some office hours, so to speak, even though I still tend to kind of work odd hours myself. There was an entertainment lawyer I was helping for a while. She had a specific set of hours she needed me available. I was still a freelancer. I've had other clients who needed me at different times for different projects, certain little hours or whatever. Certain time zones, certain days of the week. If you're a virtual assistant, for example, a client may need you on Wednesdays from 3 to 5. Doesn't mean you're not a freelancer necessarily. Certain time zones, whatever. There's some clients who want a freelancer available, like I said, during certain hours. If you know this at the beginning and accept the job, you need to honor that and give proper notice before ending a contract. I just feel like that's the right thing to do. It is your responsibility to clarify the new client's need during the interviewing process, because the interview goes both ways. Most new clients will be very upfront about whether or not they need you during specific days and hours. Like initially, before you started working with me, Jamie, I was thinking, okay, so whoever ends up working with me, at least initially, like I said, I was thinking, well, I think I'm going to need them during my office hours available to get them trained. After that, I didn't care what hours they worked. And then we had a comment that says, because I got to go back to the chat button. I got to scroll down. Would you stop stepping on that? Not having to schedule time off of work for baby appointments, being able to set work aside to take care of the little ones. Yeah, and Lee, exactly. Like, that's some of the best stuff there. Like,
You're still being
really,
present while still supporting.
Yeah. There's really like nothing better than that, honestly. In my opinion, there's like nothing better. But like I was certain that, I was gonna have to have someone available during like a small window just to make sure they were trained, and I didn't really care if they worked whatever hours they wanted to work. Because it's easier, at least initially, to have that little training window available. That way, if there's questions or whatever, you can take care of it and get them answered. And and then past that, I thought, okay, we would be good and fine. And then I was like, oh, yay, Jamie, hooray! So the thing is, sometimes new clients won't mention that they're going to want someone with, specific hours or whatever. And of course, as freelancers, we have to strive to ensure that we answer all messages from our clients within a reasonable time frame. I try to do it within 24 business hours. I've always had that standard for myself for phone calls, voicemails, emails when I worked in traditional capacity. And that's also one of Upwork's ranking factors, everyone who's interested in Upwork, is how often Upworks return messages within 24 hours. So since I've been top rated since before they actually announced and launched the program, I strive really hard to make sure that I get all of my messages read and returned to clients and prospective clients within 24 hours. So that's something to keep in mind. Sometimes those new clients who said they don't need specific hours or days, they get really pissy if you don't work when they think you should. This is where it becomes your responsibility to start training your new clients. When someone is an employee, they generally are required to work whatever hours they're contracted to work or whatever hours they're assigned by their employer. As a freelancer, we are not required to do that according to the IRS. In fact, Requiring certain hours is one of those thin lines when it comes to your taxes that determines whether someone is a freelancer or independent contractor versus being an employee. The IRS website, and I have a link for that, also states that the payer, in this case the client, has the right to control or direct the type of work, but not how or when it is done.
Huh.
Yeah. When this happens, I gently remind new clients that I am a freelancer and that according to the IRS, one of the differentiating factors between what I can do as a freelancer and what I could do if I were an employee is how and when the work is done. To be fair, I tend to do the work in the way the client believes it should be done because after all, it's their project. If I don't think they have the right plan or that it's missing something, I do bring it up in a professional manner. But if they want to stick to their plan, whatever, it's their project. It's their project and they leave feedback. Okay? Always keep that in mind. It's their project. They're the ones that's going to leave the feedback. On Upwork, you live and die by the feedback that is left for you. So I have a lot of love and respect for Upwork. And in my opinion, Upwork is the best platform for freelancers. And just so I'm clear, I am not an employee of Upwork. I am not really affiliated with them in any way, shape, or form. I'm just a freelancer there. There are major corporations, including Fortune 500 companies on the platform, and they regularly hire freelancers. There are also small businesses, medium-sized businesses, all kinds of businesses. When there are brand new clients to Upwork, there's a learning curve. I've hired on there a couple of times, but it's generally flat rate projects. I don't deal with hourly projects on Upwork. I've worked with lots of people who are brand new, and I've read the help files for the people who are hiring. Why? Because I want to be able to point those people in the right direction. The most common concern that hourly clients have is whether you will provide them with some kind of summary of your work for the week. They don't know that the hourly timer takes screenshots of what you're doing every so often. It's usually every 10 to 15 minutes, sometimes sooner, sometimes a hell of a lot later.
Yeah.
And that you have the ability to notate your time. Instead of making more work for yourself, politely just explain that Upwork provides them with a weekly time log summary. And from what I understand, they get it on Monday morning, since the end of the week for us in North America is Sunday evening, 6 o'clock during this time of the year, 7 o'clock in the summer. They can check their email for that. You can create a list of helpful links from Upwork's help files. If you want to, shoot that over to them. You can give them information on how they can contact Upwork to get help if you don't know the answers. One of the other things that I've had to walk clients through recently is how to set hourly rates. So read the help file on that. How to limit hours worked, and how to turn off manual time. And it may seem like that's not your job, and technically you're right, because you're the freelancer, and why would you want to do all of this? And the answer is it builds trust. And when you build trust, you put yourself that much closer to building those long-term relationships for your clients. And, if you have top-rated, enterprise clients, or, some of these other giant companies, you're just setting yourself up for success. And you need to be patient. Remember, just like how you might feel lost now if you're brand new clients feel lost too. So as you learn, they learn, and you guys can just learn together. And don't be afraid to tell them if you don't know. You can find out together, or just contact support on Upwork. They can help you. You can just go to support.upwork.com. If you're on Twitter, it's at Upwork Help. They will help you. They're so kind. So if you're dealing with clients who aren't kind, don't worry. I've got your back there as well. I am nothing if not full of help and surprises. I'm always full of help and surprises. Who doesn't love my help and surprises? I know Jamie does. Jamie loves helping surprises. I get myself a little drink here and then we'll talk about how to become top rated.
Woohoo!
What's been your favorite project so far?
I have to say probably the brochure that I was working on earlier today, actually. Being able to kind of have full range
Creative
on
control.
creativity. Yeah.
She's
It's
magic.
awesome because I get to do things that I actually went to school for on top of the fun writing things. So I like it.
You don't have to lie. I know you don't love writing.
Actually, I do, and I'm enjoying it a lot more than I thought that I would, surprisingly. I don't like feeling like I'm writing about the same thing over and over again, which is why I've started mixing up that one list from the other.
Yeah. Yeah, well.
But I'm learning a lot of really great things, and that's awesome too. So.
And it makes you into a really good researcher.
Yes.
Writing all the things.
All the things.
All the things.
I could definitely help somebody in a totally different state with certain things that I probably can't even do here in my own state, but it's okay.
But you would know how to find those things in this state.
Yes, definitely.
That's the important part.
Yes.
The knowledge really is transferable. That's the good news.
Yeah.
So, clear my throat. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how to become top rated on Upwork. Woohoo! Now I am not just top rated, but I'm also known as top rated plus, which for a lot of people doesn't mean much of anything. The plus has to do with, if I recall, enterprise companies or something. Only they see the plus on my account, which I don't know. But
what does the plus actually mean?
it is just a special designation for some of the bigger companies to know that I'm really on my A game, I guess.
Sweet.
So for like Microsoft, Samsung, I've worked with Microsoft once. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was good. It was a small project, you know. It was good. So, but yeah, it's for certain companies basically that qualify. I don't. They sent me an email on it once, but I was just like, oh, okay, great, and just delete because it really doesn't impact me. Because unless you are a business that qualifies for that, you don't even see that on my profile. Like that's the only way that the word plus shows up is if you meet that qualification. So I never really paid attention to it after that. I only use it if I know I'm dealing with a company that meets that, or if there are Upwork talent scouts, if they contact me and they're like, oh, here's this company that qualifies for this, and they send it to me, then when I'm like, if I'm interested and I like send in the proposal, I'll be like, hi, I'm Robin. I'm a top rated plus, da 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 da. But other than that, it doesn't really. Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. In my notes, it says it is for enterprise clients. They also have expert vetted tests. I haven't taken any of those. I don't even have a video on my profile. And that's another thing, guys. If you like videos, and as you guys can see, I'm getting more comfortable with them, you can actually film a video and have a video on your Upwork profile. So it might be something to consider. And as I said earlier, I haven't even updated the language on my profile in 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's still working fine for me. I've made some minor updates, like I said, too. I've done the testimonials. I've done all kinds of stuff, but not anything major. So, as I said earlier, make sure if you're wanting to get top rated, make sure your profile's optimized. First, you got to get found. And the best way to do that is to make sure your profile's optimized. I don't want to beat a dead horse about that. I already told you guys and explained why mine starts with Upwork. Or, I'm sorry, expert, Upwork, whatever. Of course, after 8 years, I guess you could call me an expert. I don't know. Some of my clients, I think, would probably feel that way. I feel like I know a thing or 9,000 about what I do. But I also make it a point to keep learning. But it's not what I think about what I do. It's really how, as I said earlier, how people look for me. So, and I'm going to say that if you message me and ask me questions, you're going to get the same answer. It's how people look. So think about your title. Are you affordable? Are you an expert? As a graphic designer, do you just use Photoshop? What's that program that one guy used? I had to tell him his CSS file was missing. Okay. Do you only use Dreamweaver to build websites?
Oh yeah.
Dreamweaver web designer. I was just trying to think of something to put together, right? Like just different things that you might use. Do you only do SEO web audits? Just little things to consider. There are some clients who will look for words like inexpensive or affordable, whatever your title is, but please don't niche yourself into a corner to where you are broke and living under a bridge. Okay? I know it is super popular now to like dream of living in a van down by the river.
Yes.
You should see the look I'm getting from my husband. He's doing the van down by the river dance. But seriously, like, be really careful. I don't want you to be like pigeonholed, because if you're doing this, it should be about, it's okay to do what you love and to not have like this big dream of making 6 or 7 figures a year. If you just want to live comfortably and be able to pay your bills and be happy, that's cool. That's fine. But understand that when you put inexpensive or affordable, people are going to want to haggle you down, okay? So I don't want you to be in that position. So just think about it before you use certain words. So again, optimization should not stop at your title. Go back to the beginning of this video. I don't want to rehash the whole thing. Be selective when you choose your projects. When you start on Upwork, it is totally normal to want to just take any project for the feedback. I know, I did it too. My first one was for $15, and I was so crazy proud of that project. And I was just in it for the feedback, and I got it done. But going forward, it's imperative to be selective and remember those tips I gave you about being careful about who you choose as a client, because you're there to make money. And the last thing you need is to end up saddled with a client who is never happy with you. And then I want you to think about mixing that problem with a very low paying project. When you end the project or they end it, they leave you with negative feedback, or they want their money back. Then nobody's happy. This is why it's crucial that you make it a practice in advance to select only the right clients and projects for you. And if you're dealing with flat rate projects, because this is another question I get asked on a regular basis, you make sure they fund escrow or your milestone, whichever way you're doing it, before you start working. Don't make me come get you. Next up, provide excellent client care. The true key to gaining top-rated status on Upwork, besides, the technical metrics of your job, your JSS, which has a bunch of bunch of math in it, and you can go look in the Upwork help files as far as the technicalities. The true key is excellent client care, because you need to keep your clients happy. Always remember, the project you're awarded is not technically yours. You were hired to fulfill the need, maybe an ongoing need, but it's a need nonetheless. I have a client that's been a client on there since, how long have we owned this house? Oh, Chrome's about to get mad. You're about to hear my dog bark, y'all. He's gonna get mad at the cat in a minute. Yeah. 6 years I've had a specific client. I'm still just a hired help. Even when they ask me to make videos to train their other freelancers, I'm still just hired help. They can end my contract whenever they want. It's nothing personal. It is what it is, right? So if they don't get what they want, whose fault is that? If what they want, though, isn't possible, or they don't truly understand how what they want works, you do need to talk to them about it. If the project is going to take longer than you originally thought, a conversation needs to happen. If there's a snag, talk to them. If there are issues, talk. Talk. Excellent client care is the reason, on top of making sure you accomplish what you promised. It is the pot at the end of the rainbow. When clients are happy, they come back, or they refer their friends. Just ask Jamie. We have a client consultation on Friday.
Yep.
And it's a referral. It's the happy dance. We love referrals. So when it's time to close an Upwork contract, you need to remind them to leave feedback. Not all contracts are long-term, and that's okay. And sometimes they are, and you still have to remind them that when it closes to please leave feedback. Sometimes there are new clients who just close the contract and open a new one for a new project. And that's okay. And sometimes it's scary, especially when you're new, because let's say you've gotten to that $500 magic milestone in Upwork, and you're like, oh, thank God that 20% changes to 10% for that contract fee. And then they shut that contract and they open another one, and you're like, oh my God, no, it's going to be another 20%. No, it's usually 10% at that point. So don't worry too much. It's usually switches because it's the same client. So don't worry too much. So if they tell you they are ending the contract before they end it, tell them how much you enjoyed working with them. If they're ending it without opening a new one, of course, and that you hope to work with them again and to keep you in mind for future projects, and remind them when they close the project to leave you positive feedback. You can even say it like, tell them how much it matters that you get positive feedback on the platform. Why wouldn't they leave you positive feedback? Well, think of it this way. Why don't some people complete feedback forms in other settings? It's just a way to save themselves some time. So do yourself a favor, remind them. And remind them if they're closing that contract just to open a new one for a new project, just remind them, hey, since you're closing this out to start a new project with me, do me a favor, leave positive feedback. That's all you got to do. So, but of course, if you've had a bad experience, leave honest feedback, okay? So it doesn't, what? I don't know what's wrong with my husband sometimes. Becoming top rated just takes some common sense practices. I wish I had an extra camera.
Sometimes people require a lot.
He said sometimes people require a lot for $100.
Oh God.
All right. But would you like to come talk about how to handle firing a client?
Bitch, be gone!
Oh, wait.
today.
So, what do you do though when you have to fire a client? It's certainly not easy for any professional, and it's especially scary for those of us with small businesses, especially as freelancers, because we really have to be able to replace them. One of the scariest things to think about is how it's going to affect your reputation. And, you know, how can you fire them if you have a contract? When you're working through Upwork, there's also feedback to consider, right? It's really important to acknowledge the red flags. And on my blog, I've actually talked about red flags and potential clients to minimize future headaches. I'm not going to get into all of those, but if you see red flags in people, if you get a gut feeling, if they look like a carnival from a distance, you need to run the other way. People do not change because you just happen to be you. They're still going to be who they're going to be. So here's just a quick rundown. They can't really give you a basic description of what they want or what they need to accomplish. And I understand that some people may just have an end goal in mind and they don't really know how to get there. But pay attention to what people say and don't say and ask questions. If you can't help them clarify with a few questions, don't. They're vague about deadlines. Not all people want to use a deadline, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. Just keep in mind that if they hem and haw about a date, but also want you to make their project important, that's worrisome. I promise that when it's time for them to pay you, if they didn't pay a retainer of some kind or fund escrow, they're going to hem and haw about getting you paid. And I've had people do that to me. I don't work weekends, and I've had someone want me to do a rush job on the weekend, and I've done that. I've, written and edited, and they'll put the money in escrow, and then they'll ignore the messages to release it. They won't even look at it, and I have to then get into contact with Upwork. So when people make it a hassle, so be careful with people who are vague about deadlines. You can't find much on the person or the company online. And I understand that sometimes new businesses, if you work with businesses, they don't have a lot of feedback or other information online. What you can do about the person contacting you or the business or both is try to find out whatever you can and then try to make a decision. They seem to understand exactly what you say to them over the phone or email and then turn around and introduce you to another person. Seem to turn into someone else is basically what I'm trying to write, but apparently someone should have edited this for me because apparently I can write or edit this today. Just run. Jamie and I can both tell you stories. Just, you do not need this kind of freaking trouble in your life. If they tell you this project shouldn't take long, it's super easy. Like, you shouldn't charge what you charge, it's so easy. Just go the other way. I've had people complain I charge too much. They found someone cheaper, and I'm like, okay, have a nice day, bye. And then when they pay the cheaper person and it gets messed up, I've had people try to bring it back to me for help, and usually I say no. But because generally, if they're not willing to pay you the first time, they're probably not going to pay you the second time either. So, but you have to watch out for red flags in potential clients, and you need to ignore them. And one that came across, I've had two. I talked about them last week. The scams on Upwork. If on Upwork, communication that happens on Upwork, starts on Upwork, needs to stay there. Same with payments. If they give you a Gmail address and they say they're from a big company, that's a red flag. If you're talking to someone on Upwork and they want your cell phone number and then they say they're going to have a third party text you, that's another problem. So, how do you fire a client then? I don't have to do this often. I could probably count, probably 3 times in 8 years, honey? I've had to fire a client. Maybe 3 times? 3 or 4. So, generally, it happens before the work actually begins or shortly thereafter. So, this is kind of what I do. First thing you have to do is if you have a contract with this person, read it. Also, don't ever enter into a contract without reading it. Shake my bobby pins at you people. Of course, if you're on Upwork, you probably don't have a contract. Also, get your own standard contract drafted. It really is worth the expense. My virtual.lawyer, can you open that for me, is a good option if you don't know anyone in your area and don't like the thought of calling around, going to an appointment. Stay away from free state-specific contract sites and free legal form sites because you're probably not going to read it to make sure that A, it's following all the laws in your state, and B, that it includes the right provisions to protect you. Also, those sites cannot give you legal advice. Well, there's one that does, but it still costs you. A lot of lawyers now offer what's known as a subscription model and flat fee options for business owners, so those would likely be okay. Your contract should state the reasons why either party can end the contract. It should give several options, including whether either party can just say in a business professional way, you know what, I'm sick of your shit and I don't want to work with you anymore. Long-term contracts, I'm telling y'all, they are for fucking suckers. Like, Jamie and I don't even use contracts. They're for suckers. The people I have fired, I can't imagine if I would have had a contract with them. I really can't. Being stuck with some of those people. So the next thing you want to do is determine if you're going to owe them anything. Before you fire a client, you need to review your agreement if you have one. Emails or private messages to determine if you owe them any work. If you have a contractual obligation and you don't have some kind of escape clause, you need to fulfill your obligation. Otherwise, you could damage the reputation of your business, and you definitely don't want to do that. If there is no contract and they've always paid you on time for your work, despite being a royal pain in your ass, and you're in the middle of a project, just do what you can to finish it. Give them some notice that you're not going to be available for future work. This is just to protect the reputation of your business, because when you are self-employed, your reputation is absolutely everything. Next, you need to clarify to yourself why you want to fire this client. So before you make your final decision, you need to truly understand why you're doing this. In many cases, you don't have to answer follow-up questions about why you're doing it, but, clarity is a necessity, because you're basically going to have to write them a Dear John email of some kind, and you don't want to be fake, but you don't want to come off as being a total dick. You need to be firm but professional. But remember, if you have a contract, read it. Make sure you know that you're within your right to fire them, legal rights. And if necessary, talk to a lawyer. I am not a lawyer. I cannot give you legal advice. This is not legal advice. It is not a substitute for legal advice. Consult an attorney in your state before you compose a Dear John letter to fire a client if you have a contract. I don't like firing clients, but if it needs to happen, I prefer that it happens before work ever has to begin. I'm pretty sure that's what I've had to do, right? Or like between projects. Yeah. I have to think about it. So a lot of people show their true colors like literally right after they hire you. That seems to be what's happened every time. I won't give the name of the last one, but it was fucking brutal. Dude literally flipped the script. Tried to get me to go house hunting with him. Nuts. Dude was crazy. Started threatening to sue me, and then my lawyer had to get involved. That was the best letter she's ever written. So great. Last I heard, like the last freelancer he tried to hire actually reached out to me and said he was still going off about me. And so, like, that guy reached out to me to try to find out what actually happened. And so I sent him a copy of the letter that my attorney sent him. The freelancer was like, oh. I was like, yeah, steer clear, man. It was great. So anyway, the recipient of your letter should include your direct contact with the person who hired you. If that is separate from your direct contact, also you just blind carbon copy BCC yourself. Be clear, be concise, don't be mean. My dog just looked up at me like, what? The blame game will get you nowhere. Just be clear and concise and wish them well. If you have a contract, be sure that you point them to the clause that allows you to get out of it if necessary. It is also much easier to write something like, when this project concludes, I will no longer be able to fulfill your needs for X. So for freelancing platforms, to some degree, my answer is rinse and repeat, but make sure you don't have any outstanding deliverables, particularly if you've been paid in advance. Finish up whatever project. Send a polite and direct message that states you're not going to be available to assist them with future projects. If you're worried about bad feedback, it is legitimate fear, including for Upwork, for all freelancing platforms. Some people, no matter what you do to bring a contract to an end that benefits both of you, they're still going to be ugly. They're still going to try to leave bad feedback, especially if you stuck up for yourself in some fashion. I know, I've dealt with it. The good news is that you can usually take those situations to Upwork for help. Depending on whether you're top rated, you may have other benefits available for you, such as getting bad feedback removed, one piece of bad feedback removed every 3 months. You can also do mediation, maybe for bad feedback. I've had to use their mediation service, but it was over a payment issue. If you want to leave them bad feedback, please don't be petty, but you can be honest. You can use the star system to rate the client on several factors. Your honesty can help other freelancers, but don't be a dick in the commentary. Be professional because other people can see it. Again, be honest, but don't be a jerk. So you'll live if you have to fire them, and yes, at some point you will be able to replace them. But it's no fun to fire a client. It makes you sad. Sometimes happy. So we have one more to go. One more all things Upwork. Dancing finger. Is your office nice and warm now?
It is.
Huzzah!
It's nice.
So for anyone wanting to join the chat from Facebook, you go to chat.restream.io/FB. Yeah, you have to hit the login.
It won't let me purchase anything.
Weird.
Peppers.
Strange. Oh, you're probably logged in as me there. I mean the Restream account.
No,
Weird. Well, I can see the chat. You can always just harass me in chat. The speaker's off. He's trying to figure out how to participate, but, you know, he's sitting right by me too, so. We have one more story. Huh?
it is.
Neat. So, everybody's favorite. I know Jamie's excited. Aren't you, Jamie? You look
Yeah.
excited. So excited. How to get out of a bad Upwork contract. My throat still hurts some. And I still have to finish that article. It's past 600 words. You want to guess how many words it has now?
Probably close to 1,000, knowing you.
1,894.
Wow.
It's about half done now. I don't know how they expected all of this to fit in one article in 600 words. I got out all of the to-dos because it's like tips for the subject. I'll send it to you later so you can see it because, I don't want to give away too much information since this is a live video and it's for a client.
Yeah.
But then it's like, do these things and then don't do these things. But it's like, you gave me all of this in an outline. I don't know how you expect this to be done in 600 words, guys. No.
Yeah. I tried really hard to keep that one small too. It didn't quite work out.
Yeah, I don't know. Like with some of these, just like. Okay, so how to get out of a bad Upwork contract. At some point, if you're on Upwork, you're going to have a bad contract. It doesn't matter if it's hourly or flat rate. And every here and there, especially at the beginning, it's like a terrible relationship that starts out where like they're super dreamy clients with no red flags. Like they're just so lovely and wonderful. Does it remind you of anyone? So super and dreamy and like no red flags?
Not at all, no.
And then boom!
Explosions.
Yeah. Terrible. So, it turned awful. My husband's playing with his eggplant. What? So the dogs, those dog toys, the two cover. He wants you to see his eggplant. It exploded.
Nice.
So if you're just joining the show,
My eggplant blew.
now you guys see why I call myself a struggle bus driver. What
the hell are you talking about, Honky? I am not a cause for you to be on a struggle bus.
I was all boring and just put Jeannie on mine.
What were we talking about again for that? So about the Upwork contracts.
Get out of bad Upwork contracts.
Yeah, but I was saying something specific.
They start out great and then bam. Terrible.
Yeah, but I had a point. And then somebody's eggplant exploded. Anyway. So that's what we're going to focus on for the next few minutes. And that's our last topic, are the bad Upwork contracts. I really haven't had too many, just 3 or 4 over the last 8 years. And bless you.
Oh, God.
This is my Upwork anniversary month, 8 years.
Woo-hoo.
So I am what's considered a 6-figure earner there. And basically all that means is I have earned over $100,000 total on Upwork. So
Woo.
I think it's impressive, but I have some pocket friends on Twitter that have earned 500,000, 700,000. I've earned some that have really make me look super lame. I'm gonna see if I can get some of them to show up on here sometime. I think that would be a lot of fun too if we can get them on here with us.
Definitely.
One's a graphic designer, Morgan.
Yeah, I started following her on Twitter.
She's really nice too. If you look, Jamie and I share a ClickUp board. If you look under, I think, admin, I put some notes in there from some stuff she recently shared. So I think you will like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've only had 3 or 4 bad contracts, but I've learned some really important things. So that's what I'm going to share. So first you have to decide if the contract itself is bad for you. So what I might consider a bad contract for me could be different from someone else, and what I might consider bad now might be different from what it was a few years ago, or maybe, in a few years from now. The first bad Upwork contract I dealt with was probably 6 or 7 years ago. The first project went fine. This is when we were living in Moore, right before we bought the house. The client was happy. I'd ghostwritten an ebook for a B-list celebrity in another country. He was happy. I was happy. He sent me some more material and wanted me to do another book. I got to work. I sent him the file. It was a flat rate milestone request. Not a big deal. He had funded it. Seemed like everything was going all right. But he refused to release it. And he accused me of basically farming out the work. And I was fucking floored. Like, just absolutely, like, just, floored. Never in my Upwork career then, or even now, have I ever gone against Upwork's TOS and farmed out work to anyone. I've always followed their terms of service. And I've even gotten clarity on their terms of service. I value my livelihood. I value my account. And yes, I have a thriving client base now off of Upwork. But I still, like I said, I value my Upwork account and I value my client relationships there. And I would love to have more clients on Upwork. So, hey, if you're looking for a writer or editor, hit me up. Pretty easy to find. Even if you just Google Robin Bull, Upwork. Super easy to find. And I promise you, I'm more professional there than I am on this show. I did the only thing I could think of because I didn't just want my money. I needed that money back then. Like, it was crazy. I had rent to pay, groceries, electric company. They don't take thoughts and prayers. And, I have my family to support. So I contacted Upwork's mediation team. They talked to each of us separately. They took the product specs out of the job. They took, like, the files he sent me. They took the document I created, and they took everything. The writing I created the first time for the first project, they took that too as a sample. And they determined that I had in fact created the new work document, and they released my money to me. And I ended the contract, and they made sure that he was unable to leave negative feedback. I blocked him from being able to ever fucking contact me again. Like, I was just absolutely floored. So, just freaking crazy. To this day, I do not understand what happened with that. So, more recently, I had a client in another country who owns a U.S. domain. They would send me an outline for U.S. legal articles. The main problem is that although I would follow their outline, they would send it back from their editing team, wanting me to remove practically everything they asked me to put in, or they would want me to include what basically would toe the line here in the U.S. as legal advice. The problem with that is no one in the United States other than a licensed attorney can give legal advice. And they initially hired me because I'm a paralegal. And I hold a bachelor's degree in paralegal studies. And I have 15 years of legal experience. But I'm not going to write anything that even appears to come close to the unauthorized practice of law. And these people wanted to put these articles in my name. And the unauthorized practice of law is a felony in my state. And I was like, oh no. Yeah, this is not happening.
No way.
Yeah, and in some states now they have what's known as a licensed legal technician. You don't have to be an attorney, but you still have to have a specific license. Our state is not one of those states. So I was like, no, we're not doing that. So the first step I took was trying to educate the client that this is not acceptable. They kept doing it anyway. They also sent a list of how they wanted me to choose outgoing links. But then they would turn around and ask me to reassure them that their links weren't competitors, instead of just, clicking the links that I sent them to sites like, .edu, .gov, things that clearly weren't competing with their site because they weren't an educational institution or a US government entity. So not only did I have to do my job, I had to do theirs, and they weren't paying me nearly enough to make it worth it. So the thing is, neither of these clients had red flags in the beginning. They just either flipped, which was the first client, or ended up being extremely lazy and not wanting to listen, the second client. And the second client didn't really want to think they were lazy, by the way. They thought I needed to be more concise to somehow fit all of this information into their outline, which wasn't going to work. Plus, break US law again wasn't going to happen. And so eventually, when I ended that contract, what ended up happening was they wanted to keep the articles, which they had paid for, but wanted to change the names. And I was like, I don't care what you do, but it is not going under my name. So we actually entered into a legal binding contract that they could have them, but they were changing the name. So you have to determine when you're going to end the contract. Once you figure out that you have a bad contract on your hands, the next step is to determine when you're going to end it. If your client is abusive, end the contract immediately. I had a client who wasn't an Upwork client. Me, my husband, and a 12-year-old, well, he wasn't 12 when this happened. This, I think, was 2019. We went out for pizza, and I was doing SEO work and SEO writing, and she had my cell phone number, and I did everything she wanted me to do for her blog and some of like the WordPress stuff for the SEO. And that morning, she was really happy with everything that I did. And even the day before, she was happy because she had started getting phone calls. I even have emails to show how happy she was. And then the next night, we had gone out for pizza, and she called and started screaming at me. She was drunk. She was so drunk. She started screaming at me about how she was going to sue me. Huh?
Oh, God.
Yeah. About how she was going to sue me because I made changes to her site that she did not authorize, although I still had the email. I still have the email chain. It was such a mess. And even after I ended up like ditching that contract, she was still threatening to sue me, and I still had access. If she was so unhappy, why did I still have access to her Google Analytics for almost 2 years? So she obviously wasn't that unhappy, but man, she was a mess. She was so unhappy and abusive. So like when those situations go on, you got to cut that immediately. But you can and should explain why you are ending the contract, and that's exactly what I did. I said, you're not going to call me and yell at me this way, because it's what she would do every time. When she left me a positive review on Google My Business, which had her name, I took a screenshot and I shared it to Facebook, and that freaking enraged her. And she called me and started screaming at me again that I'd violated her privacy. And I informed her, you left a public review on the internet. That's not violating your privacy. It was crazy. Yeah, she was wild. And I'm like, you're an attorney. How do you not know this? So yeah. So keep all of your documentation. If anybody knows a thing or two or 100 about keeping documentation, I would think it would be us, you and I.
Definitely.
Definitely keep all of your documentation. Provide the client with any work. Whether you attempt to collect what's in escrow or what is owed to you is totally up to you. If it's in escrow and it's not that much and it's on Upwork, just send it back. I've refunded before unless I've provided all of the majority of the services before the client became abusive. Why? Because if they just became abusive right after the contract started and you haven't provided services, they have absolutely no reason to leave bad feedback. They'll probably still try, but they certainly can't say that you took their money and didn't provide services, and you have proof of that. Take screenshots before you do it. What if the client isn't abusive? What if it just isn't working out? What if it just isn't a good fit? What if you just don't like it? What if the scope of the work is just far beyond what they stated it would be? Because I've been there too. What if they're just a pain in the ass? Well, then you certainly have to determine the right time to pull the plug. And it's a personal decision. I've waited until I finished 2 edits that I promised with my writing contracts and for the release of payments, fulfill my duties, I make sure I get paid, and then I'm done. I just say something polite. It's been a pleasure working with you. If they're just a pain in the ass or something. Unfortunately, circumstances have changed. I'm not going to be able to continue working with you. I'm going to have to close the contract now. Thank you so much. Please remember to leave positive feedback, right? If the scope has changed, the deadline changed, or things have just become unreasonable, it generally necessitates a conversation with the client to try to just come to an agreement first. Then at the end of the project, I do the "it's not you, it's me. I have other project. It's been great" conversation and pull the plug. Give honest feedback. Sometimes clients just don't know how to manage their time or things come up. Frankly, who hasn't had that happen? Especially over the last couple of years, right? Like, I feel like
I definitely used to be very terrible at managing time. Not so much anymore, though.
I used to be freaking amazing, but it feels like time has been even more just this weird.
It's been
I don't
crazy.
know. Time has just been so weird for me the last couple of years. But one key point, a bad project for you doesn't always mean you should leave bad feedback on Upwork. If you just didn't like the project, you just didn't like it. It doesn't make them or the project worthy of bad feedback. It just meant that you preferred something different. So even if you're going to end the contract because it was a bad contract for you, because I've been there too, like I don't like it, and that's fine. That's fair. Okay? It's okay to be fair to yourself, but remember, you need to be fair about the client's needs, and you wouldn't want someone being unfair to you. So that's really all I have. Ta-da!
Right on.
My husband wants you to see his eggplant again.
Is he fixing it?
We'll see.
It's stuffed. No, I ain't fixing it. Dog's just gonna rip him back open.
Any final Upwork questions, comments, concerns? No? Well, then everybody can follow on Twitter at the Robin Bowl. They can follow us on Facebook, Be a Better Freelancer. Where's the group one? There it is. Or they can join the writing group for free. Yay! That's really all I have for today, since no one else really has anything. It's been a nice, long QA Wednesday all about Upwork. 2 special guests today. Super fun. So yeah, I guess we'll see you next time, people.